Hollywood may seem accustomed to scandals, but the story of Michelle Phillips still left the entire entertainment world speechless. Some secrets are buried so deeply it feels like time itself has erased them until someone accidentally uncovers the truth. Michelle Phillips was that person, the one who pulled back the curtain on one of the greatest mysteries in rock history, the identity of Mama Cass's daughter's biological father. It was a secret Cass Elliot took to her grave. And when Michelle finally discovered the truth years later, she described the moment as a bomb dropped right in the heart. But Michelle's story doesn't end with that revelation. Her entire life has been a whirlwind of emotions, addiction, love, and dangerous relationships. Don't take your eyes off this video if you want to uncover the full shocking truth. As a member of the iconic 1960s folk group, the Mamas and the Papas, Michelle Phillips was no stranger to conflict and spectacular downfalls that shook rock history. In fact, despite her angelic face, she was often at the center of the drama. Michelle Phillips never lived an ordinary life, and it all began when she was just a child. Michelle was only 5 years old when her world first collapsed. Her mother died suddenly from a brain aneurysm, leaving Michelle and her sister adrift and alone. Their father, Gil, a free-spirited bohemian, decided to raise them in his own unconventional way. In Michelle's memories, her father instilled discipline and compassion in her. But he was also a man who brought home one woman after another with an almost obsessive frequency. Every night, behind the always closed bedroom door, Michelle heard sounds that left her young soul tangled and confused. It was then that she learned a crucial lesson. The adult world was chaotic and dangerous, and if she wanted to survive, she had to be strong. At 13, Michelle met Tamar Hodel, a strange and magnetic Hollywood girl a few years older, and the daughter of Dr. George Hodel, the man long suspected in the infamous Black Dahlia murder. Tamar swept into Michelle's life like a storm, rebellious, dangerous, yet irresistibly captivating. She took Michelle to live music shows, gave her the first pills she ever tried, and even helped the 8th grader get a fake ID. To Michelle, Tamar wasn't a threat. She was the embodiment of freedom. Together, they wandered through the streets of Hollywood, drinking in the rising sounds of the 60s, as if music could wash away all the loneliness inside them. In 1961, not yet 17, Michelle ran away to San Francisco with Tamar, searching for a new life. It was there that fate led her to John Phillips, the charismatic leader of the renowned folk group, The Journeymen. John was 25 at the time, married to high society dancer Susan Adams, and the father of 2 young children. But for Michelle, it was love at first sight. She had grown up in a bohemian household that never taught her the meaning of boundaries. And when she loved like diving headfirst into an abyss. Michelle refused to be anyone's secret. One afternoon, she stood on Susan's doorstep and said bluntly, "I'm in love with your husband." Michelle wasn't John's first affair. Susan, long numb to such betrayals, calmly invited the delicate young girl inside and told her that her husband had lovers everywhere, and Michelle was simply the newest one. Though John Phillips was a notorious womanizer, he fell for Michelle as fiercely as she fell for him. He later wrote, "It was as if she stepped out of a dream and into my life." By 1962, John and Susan had divorced, and John and Michelle had moved to New York and married. John Phillips was often hailed as a musical genius, someone with an uncanny ability to spot and even shape emerging trends. But alongside that brilliance came volatility and an extreme need for control. To many in the industry, John was like a charming snake oil salesman, always persuasive, always manipulating people to get what he wanted. In the early years of his career, he experimented with everything from sweet doo-wop to sentimental ballads, hoping to crack the code to mainstream success. Yet despite his constant experimentation, John was obsessed with maintaining absolute control, especially over Michelle, his young wife, who was as angelic as she was dazzling in the pride of his life. Michelle had a promising future of her own. She had just signed a teen modeling contract, ready to step into the glamorous world of fashion. But John wouldn't allow it. He forced her to give it all up, pulling her into his orbit, training her in vocal lessons, making her join his band, and keeping her by his side like a shadow. Even before the group officially formed, John wanted to dictate everything from their music to their image, and even Michelle's private life. On tour, he demanded she stay in supervised dorms, never out of his sight for even a moment. Still, John's talent was undeniable. He had an uncanny ability to draw inspiration from anywhere, even during his late-night wanderings through the city while high on stimulants. One such night, drifting through fog and flickering streetlights, the first melodies of California dreaming came pouring into his mind. The next morning, John shook Michelle awake, begging her to help him finish the lyrics. The song quickly became one of the most iconic anthems of the 1960s, and soon after, a legendary band was born. Around this time, John met Denny Doherty, a tenor with a fragile look playing troubadour kind of aura. Then came Cass Elliot, a woman with a voice unlike any other. The four of them came together to form the Mamas and the Papas. But even before the band officially formed, cracks had already begun to show. It was no surprise that John remained obsessed with controlling Michelle within their marriage. What shocked him, however, was Michelle's response. Instead of submitting, she began to rebel. In the midst of their tense power struggle, Michelle unexpectedly found what she thought was an escape when she met Russ Titleman, her sister's new boyfriend. At first, their conversations were casual, but fleeting encounters soon turned into a burning secret. Though both were already in relationships, they quickly fell deeply in love and began a clandestine affair. For the first time, Michelle wasn't the one being controlled. She was the one breaking the rules, the one cheating inside what seemed like an unshakable marriage. To John, this was unforgivable. The role reversal cut him to the core. Furious, he called Russ himself, his voice cold as steel. "You know, another guy might be waiting outside your door with a shotgun." The threat may have sounded exaggerated, but everyone knew John wasn't joking. And in a cruel twist, while John had engaged in countless affairs, this time he was the one being betrayed. Terrified, Russ abruptly ended things with Michelle. But what shocked John even more was her reaction, not a shred of remorse. Michelle had grown up in a home where infidelity was nothing unusual. Her father had affairs with many women, and she had never viewed sex as shameful. Enraged, John poured his hurt into music, writing the song "Go Where You Want to Go" as a bitter, sarcastic jab at Michelle. But their tragedy had grown beyond a crumbling marriage. Now the entire band stood on the edge of collapse. In 1965, the Mamas and the Papas had just hit their peak with California Dreaming echoing across America. They were appearing on The Ed Sullivan Show, partying all night, fighting all day, as if every ounce of creative passion came at the cost of chaos. Cost of if Michelle's affair with Russ had only been a small crack in the Phillips household, her next lover threatened to bring the whole house down. Denny Doherty, her bandmate, the gentle and fragile voice tenor. After countless rehearsals charged with unspoken tension, Michelle and Denny couldn't resist each other. When John found out, his first instinct was the familiar one, turning pain into music. He wrote the song "I Saw Her Again" as a way to soothe his shattered heart. But this time, the wound wouldn't heal so easily. The tension escalated until John and Michelle decided to separate. John quickly found someone new, high society socialite and Marshall, while Michelle, nursing her wounded pride, secretly began seeing John Clark, a musician from the Byrds. It should have stayed a secret, but John refused to stay hidden. One night, he showed up at a Mamas and the Papas show wearing a blazing red shirt, sitting front row as if to stake his claim. Michelle saw him and was suddenly flooded with confidence, singing as though every note and every glance were meant for John, while John silently watched from the wings. For Michelle, it was a moment of triumph. For John, who had nearly reached his breaking point with her string of affairs, this public humiliation was too much. After the show, he fired her from the band. When Michelle turned to the other members for support, they sided with John. In an instant, she was cast out of the very band she had helped create. But Michelle, with her angelic face, had no intention of leaving quietly. She was furious at being kicked out. And things got even worse when the band decided to replace her with Jill Gibson, the girlfriend of producer Lou Adler. That was when Michelle realized they were truly serious. She fought back by storming into one of the Mamas and the Papas recording sessions, screaming that she would bury them all. When Denny Dirty refused to defend her, she even tried to hit him. The Mamas and the Papas were indeed a band steeped in turmoil. And despite Michelle's explosive outburst that day, They eventually let her rejoin the group. For a brief moment after the reunion, it seemed as though things had finally calmed down for Michelle. The Mamas and the Papas went on to write one of the most dazzling chapters of the 1960s, performing at the Monterey Pop Festival alongside future legends like Jimi Hendrix and turning the song San Francisco into an anthem for an entire generation, yearning for freedom in the age of Aquarius. Success poured in like a flood, and Michelle and John used their earnings to buy a luxurious mansion in Bear, a place that quickly became a raucous gathering spot for rock and movie stars, with parties that lasted until dawn. Amid the whirlwind of glamour, Michelle discovered she was pregnant. Not long after, their daughter China Phillips was born, the couple's only child, a small symbol of hope in the midst of their chaotic lives. But behind the gilded mansion doors and the words of praise was a dark, suffocating world. John not only refused to loosen his grip on Michelle, he tightened it more than ever. Cass Elliott's sister once recalled the feeling of stepping inside the Bear mansion. "I didn't feel comfortable at all in that house. It was gloomy, and so was the air around John." Tamar Hodel also said that once when she came to visit Michelle, John wouldn't let her leave the room as if he was keeping his wife under house arrest. Michelle has never revealed everything that happened in that house, both before and after she gave birth. But the little she has shared is chilling enough. She said John once physically assaulted her so badly she had to be hospitalized. That was when Michelle realized she couldn't endure it any longer. In 1968, when baby China Cha was still an infant, she made the most painful decision of her life to divorce John Phillips and cut off the marriage that had become a nightmare. Without Michelle by his side, John spiraled quickly out of control. Though the whole group was no stranger to parties drenched in drugs, John was always the one who self-destructed the hardest. He sank deeper into abusing Delaude with his new girlfriend, actress Genevieve. John's condition grew so bad that even Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones once threw him out of a party because he couldn't stand it. But Michelle had her own struggles. The same year she divorced John was also the year the Mamas and the Papas nearly fell apart. Cass Elliott wanted to pursue a solo career, and new music trends had left the group behind. The band gradually withered before finally being released from their recording contract in 1969. John and Michelle were no longer together, and neither was their band. After the shattered pieces of her broken marriage and crumbled music career, Michelle decided to take a new path: acting. The world of cinema, with its bright stage lights and dazzling stars, quickly swept her off her feet. In those early days of nervously auditioning, Michelle had a brief fling with a young up-and-coming actor at the time, Jack Nicholson. Jack's recklessness, boldness, and streak of madness seemed to awaken in Michelle the instincts that had long been buried under the shadow of John Phillips. She tried her hand at various roles, and then, as if by fate, Michelle landed the lead female part in The Last Movie, a daring countercultural film directed by Dennis Hopper, who had just shaken Hollywood with his masterpiece Easy Rider. When she signed the contract, Michelle must have been fully aware of Hopper's glittering and notorious reputation. He was a true rebel, a legendary wild child with a personality as volatile as it was extreme. But instead of taking it as a warning, Michelle saw something magnetic in Hopper. Having once lived alongside the unstable rock star type like John Phillips, she found Hopper's chaos only made him more intoxicating. To Michelle, he wasn't dangerous. He was an addiction, a wild spirit she wanted to tame. And then when the film crew traveled to Peru to shoot The Last Movie, everything spiraled into chaos beyond anyone's imagination. The set was drenched in alcohol, drugs, and sudden outbursts, and Hopper was at the eye of the storm. Instead of keeping her distance, Michelle plunged right into it. She fell for him madly, partly because, as she later admitted, it came from her Florence Nightingale instinct, the urge to save a broken man. But while trying to save Hopper, Michelle nearly lost herself. Right after filming wrapped, Michelle and Hopper dove headfirst into a reckless decision. They got married. Their bohemian-style wedding took place in late 1970 and was bizarrely simple. Guests recalled that paper bags with candles were used as decorations, and Hopper personally read the entire wedding ceremony from the Gospel of Thomas as if performing in some absurd play. But the real wake-up call came the next morning. According to several witnesses, Hopper hadn't been sober on their wedding day, And when he woke up, he didn't even recognize the bride lying next to him. The days that followed turned into a nightmare. Hopper, who was obsessed with guns, once fired shots inside the house, leaving Michelle and her young daughter frozen in terror. On another occasion, in a drug-fueled haze, he even handcuffed and restrained Michelle, claiming she was a witch. That was the moment Michelle realized that if she didn't run, she would be consumed. The final push came from her own father. He dragged her to a lawyer's office and firmly said, "Men like that never change. File for divorce now." Michelle listened. Her marriage to Dennis Hopper ended abruptly, lasting only 8 days. Having survived both John Phillips and Dennis Hopper, Michelle swore never again to let her life depend on men like them. She re-emerged as a glamorous Hollywood 8G girl, striding proudly into lavish parties, rekindling her romance with Jack Nicholson for a year before leaving him for the notorious ladies' man Warren Beatty. It seemed Michelle had regained her shine, and life once again glittered like the flashing camera lights around her. But a dark cloud had already begun to gather quietly on the horizon. Michelle remained close to Cass Elliot, her old friend, who had once conquered the world alongside her with the mamas and the papas. The two shared almost everything and often brought their little girls to play together. Michelle's daughter, China, was exactly 1 year younger than Cass's daughter, Owen. But there was one thing Cass had never told anyone: who Owen's biological father was. In the summer of 1974, as they were sunbathing by the pool, Michelle finally gathered the courage to ask. Cass only gave a mysterious smile and said, "I'll tell you when I get back from my London show." Cass never got the chance to keep that promise. She had been exhausted for weeks leading up to her London tour, yet still stepped onto the stage and shone as always. After the performance, she called Michelle, crying tears of joy because everything had gone so well. It was the last call they would ever share. The following night, Cass Elliot, only 32 years old, passed away suddenly. Despite the persistent rumors, the autopsy showed the cause was a heart attack with no trace of drugs in her system. Cass left this world carrying her greatest secret and left Michelle with an irreplaceable void.